recently released a short on YouTube which was talking about basically how wild a concept procreation is. In this video, I wanted to reiterate some of the points he made, but also add on top of that, because I think procreation is even wilder a thing than Hank is making out.
Tell me something that is totally normal, but seems completely unacceptable. I'll go first. You can just make a person.
So what Hank is saying here reminds me of something that David Benatar once said. If procreation were not so natural and normal, it would be seen for the tragedy and travesty that it is. And I think it's the fact that procreation is so normal, or this is one of the reasons that it's so normal, that we fail to see the glaring ethical problems with it. And I'll get into those problems more in a bit. But we can see cases like this all throughout history. There have been many behaviors that have been normalized in society throughout history and today, which are extremely ethically problematic, and yet we're blinded to the ethical problems with these actions because they are so normal. Now, of course, with these behaviors, there will be other confounding variables as well, which help to keep us blind to how ethically problematic they are. In the case of procreation, one of those will obviously be the deep emotional bond we can form with a child, and I say can, not will, but also the biological/cultural, deeply ingrained desire to have a child and raise them that we have. All of these variables compound the resistance we have to seeing the ethical problems with procreation.
Like, you just have a conversation with somebody, be like, do you want to make a human with me? And if they're like, yeah, I think we should make a human being. A few cells will implant themselves in their uterine wall, and then 40 years later, he'll be like, I have a staff meeting I have to go to.
So yeah, procreation is pretty wild. The fact that you can create another person is pretty wild. Now, I think one of the things that also keeps us blind to the weirdness of the fact that we can just create someone and the significance of that is the fact that when we create them, they are a tiny baby, they are vulnerable, they are innocent, and they also don't understand the world around them and can't express that fully. And so we have the opportunity to mold them and in some cases indoctrinate them into the customs, cultures, and society that we exist within. But imagine if we were to do the same thing, but when we create the person that we create, they're already a fully grown human being. And when we create them, they look around, they're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, what is all this? And they are fully aware of all the things that are happening to them and all of the implications of creation for them straight away. We, as their creators, don't have time to essentially indoctrinate them or habituate them to the conditions that they are living in. When we create them, this person would presumably find this situation bizarre and probably quite traumatizing given the world we're in. They're just thrown in there and they're exposed to all of the harms in the world. And they come to realize that when we create them, we just put them at risk of cancer, dementia, violence, emotional detachment, breakup, bereavement, disease, and we've also just put a set of obligations on them. And now they have to navigate a world where they could very easily and likely will harm others, which is an awful thing. And they now have to tiptoe around this complex web of interactions they have with others and try their best not to harm others in a society where it's very normalized to harm other sentient beings. They'll now live in a society where there are certain restraints on how they can behave, which maybe will impinge on their sense of self-expression and freedom. They will have to work a job to not slip into loneliness or starvation or thirst. They will have to engage in work and expend effort to get food, water, put a roof over their head, maintain relationships with people. All of these things we as people in the world come to accept as normal and just part of life. But this person, it would be completely bizarre to them because they are created as a fully grown adult that can understand the world around them. But also these things won't be normalized to them. And I think the fact that when we create someone, they're a baby and we can essentially adapt their preferences to the conditions that we live in, we don't see the friction and the discord of how bizarre the world we're creating someone into is and how much harm there is in it. Just the fact that we're bringing someone into a world where they will inherently form deep attachments with things or people or places, and the fact that they have to die and all those things are ripped from them is fundamentally ethically questionable. Now procreation seems even more bizarre than Hank is making out, because the fact that two people with no qualifications, they can just be out on a party, two idiots fucking around, and they happen to create a whole new separate individual, that's wild. And Hank is putting that across, but it's even more wild when you take into consideration all the things that I've just put forward.
You can do it on accident! You can accidentally make a person!
And yeah, to round off, this fact that you can do it by accident as well is wild. In fact, the UN a few years ago released a statistic that 50% of pregnancies worldwide that have been registered were accidental. The fact that such a significant thing to do, people are doing it 50% of the time by accident, is crazy. Anyway, let me know what you think about this. How wild is procreation? Was there an aspect of it that I didn't cover or Hank didn't cover in his video? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.
He's 30 years old.
Trading made me feel like they wanted me to attend their university.
I needed something. The entire world running away from a burning building, and then natalists standing there laughing. And this just shows the Ponzi scheme that procreation is in so many ways. This one's a bit brutal. In this video, I'm going to be taking anti-natalist memes way too seriously, reacting to them, dissecting them, and of course, enjoying them. I don't think there's anything else to go over, so let's get into it. So this first one, we've got a kid chilling in the void, and then their parents hitting them over the head with the gift of life. So, not to reference myself too quickly, but I've done a video on why life being a gift is bollocks, debunked it, so go check that out. But basically, what this meme is saying is that obviously there is no kid chilling in the void. But the thing basically being represented here is that before you create someone, they don't exist, there's no problems they have, anything like that, so there is no depth. And often there's this sort of imagery of like, peacefulness or calmness in the void. Obviously, that is something we can describe it as, but there's no one actually experiencing that, obviously. But then people come along and think they're giving someone the gift of life, and actually they're basically just fucking someone over, creating them, disturbing that peacefulness of the void, as it were, and bringing them into a world where now they've got loads of problems that they've got to solve, things they've got to alleviate, and basically coming into existence isn't an advantage, it's a disadvantage over never having come into existence. Next one, you've got the Earthborn in a restaurant on a balcony, and natalists basically drilling away at the foundation. So again, this is a similar one. It's basically saying like unborn people, like people who haven't come into existence, these hypothetical people, they don't exist, they have any problems, they don't need or want for anything, and yet natalists thinking they're doing a good thing are doing something which is going to cause a lot of shit to happen. There are no problems, and now natalists are doing their thing, and they're going to create a load of problems by bringing people into existence. Anyway, next one. The entire fucking world running away from a burning building, and then natalists standing there laughing. So obviously what this is in reference to is the fact that no matter how fucked up the world is, people will continue just to reproduce, and they seem to do it just mindlessly. So a lot of people today think that we're in a bad situation and the world is going downhill, and that may very well be true, but there are also people who say, no, we haven't had it as good today. Look at it 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, or they reference some point in history and say, that was actually a bad time. Today isn't actually that bad, so we're fine to reproduce. What they implicitly accept there is that, yeah, whenever you reference a point in history, they shouldn't have reproduced then. You're exposing the addiction that natalists or people have to this idea of creating people. You're proving the point, even if it's not us today who are creating people in the most awful conditions, which let's be honest, there are extremely awful conditions in at least some parts of the world, and people are reproducing. Although that's not to say just those people should reproduce, no one should reproduce, but people are doing what this person is saying that humans aren't doing today. Some people are doing it today. But the thing is that even if people weren't doing it today, they did do it in history. There's always a time in history we can point to saying, yeah, that was fucked, and people still reproduce. Anyway, next one. My child is going to fix the world, and then you've got The Shining breaking the door down with the axe. The child's inside and the world comes through, here's Johnny. So obviously loads of people say that their kid, is going to overcome suffering or change the world or cure cancer, all these things, basically saying their kid's going to be the next Messiah, come in, radically change the world or make the world a better place, and they're going to go down in history. Or they say that, yeah, the world is tough, but people can withstand it, overcome something and grow from it. Obviously there's a bunch of things to take here, like you don't create someone, there is no one there who needs to overcome suffering and get over all these hurdles. The second thing is, why create someone into a world with all these hurdles when they didn't exist and need to overcome the hurdles, and they could actually fall over those hurdles. Those hurdles could actually pose a significant burden to them. Not everyone can overcome the hardships and the suffering that some people can. And then obviously you've got the cases of when people say, my child's going to do great things. Yeah, their child may do great things. First of all, that doesn't justify creating them. But second of all, if you think the child's going to do some great thing like cure cancer or solve global poverty, they're more likely to be in poverty or die from cancer than do those things. And you can take it upon yourself to do the things you say are good to do, not put them on some child who you don't even know will do them. And you're going to pump loads of resources into getting them to the place where they could do those things. And you don't even know if they will. And there's a lot of fucked up shit in the world. I think we should just leave it be, not create people in into this place and then potentially suffer those factors. Next one. So your baby would trade off, I receive the burden of human consciousness, and you receive, which I guess is the parent, a false sense of purpose in your monotonous existence. This one's a bit brutal. So obviously this one is pointing at how people create children basically for selfish reasons, often for meaning, or people just need a sense of something to do in life. What are we to fill up our lives with, if not copy everyone else, create a child and put a significant amount of our time and resources into raising them? People create children often because they have some issue or problem in their life and they need to find a way to alleviate or solve it, potentially, or it's not guaranteed. So they create a child and use that to into their own hands, while putting the burden of consciousness on this child. Being a human isn't easy, being a sentient being isn't easy. And people try to solve their own issues by putting problems on other people by creating them. Crazy. Next, me. My life has no meaning. Maybe the meaning of my life is to make an offspring with a meaningful life. My life has no meaning. Oh no. And this just shows the Ponzi scheme that procreation is in so many ways. You know, in economic ways, in ways of meaning, like being pointed out in this meme, in that, look, it depends on obviously your beliefs about the universe, but I am a cosmic nihilist. I don't think there's any ultimate meaning in this universe. I haven't seen any good reason to believe there is. My understanding is that we are just here, we came about through natural processes, and there's no ultimate meaning in our lives. Obviously, we can create terrestrial meaning interpersonally and within our species. We can try and achieve something great in life that's going to help others, but there's no ultimate meaning to our lives. And the bitterness of that can sting for a lot of people, even if it's subconsciously. And so they create a child to bring themselves some meaning or some distraction, I guess, in life. But then they just pass the burden of finding meaning and finding distraction to this next child who has to do the same thing. And the cycle continues. Depressing. Next, me. We will not mess you up like our parents messed us up. A whole new kind of fucked up. Again, people create children because they want to try and either right the wrongs that happened in their life rather than try to do that themselves and overcome them themselves. They create a child to distract them from that or feel like they can live their life how they wanted to through the child. But often what they do is just pass their issues on to the next child. It's like a poem by Philip Larkin, which I'm not going to get word for word, but he basically talks how our parents fucked us up, pass on their issues to us, add a few in just for good measure, man hands on misery to man, deepening like a coastal shell, get out while you can, don't have kids yourself. I've done a video on the poem, which I probably just butchered, and I'll link it in the description so you can check it out. But he basically, in a poetical form, makes this meme and gives it the explicit antinatalist twist that it needs. Next meme. Dad, I need some money. What for? Because you forced me to exist on a planet which requires arbitrary pieces of paper to exchange for basic needs. So this kind of gets into like the burden that people will put on others by creating them. You create someone who is all kinds of wants and needs. They are instilled in them when you create them. We have biological, psychological, cultural, social, all sorts of needs and wants. And we have to put in effort to try and save them. But we exist in a world or a universe that isn't bent towards helping us satisfy them. If anything, it's often bent towards us not being able to satisfy them. And we've obviously, as humans, set up different political, economic structures that go to some extent to help satiate our needs, like coming up with money that helps us function to some degree. But it's better just not to create someone so that they don't have to get these arbitrary pieces of paper to fulfill the needs that you instilled in them by creating them in the first place. Next, me. Me explaining to my parents why I'm not having kids. This curse ends with me. So this one basically makes antinatalists very grandiose. So we're not having children, and we try not to cause other sentient beings to come into existence because we don't want to create individuals who are going to suffer. But a very grandiose way of putting that obviously is something like my bloodline ends with me, the suffering ends with me, or this curse ends with me. Basically pointing out how each generation's handed it on to the next, and we're going to say, bam, no, the buck stops with us. Next, me. Natalism getting uncovered by, is it Fred in Scooby-Doo? I haven't watched it for years. Let's see who this really is. Selfishness, which often it basically is. Often people will come up with all sorts of isolating reasons why they procreated, try and come up with all these separate justifications, but ultimately people would have children, people reproduce, people create other sentient beings because they want to, because it serves some need they have. It is extremely uncommon for people to not want to create someone, it be against their own interests, and yet altruistically say, I'm going to create it for the greater good or for the benefit of someone else or blah, 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 blah. Which again doesn't make it ethical because they're still using that child as a means to create problems that are here now, and that child didn't exist to even care about those problems. But ultimately, a lot of the reason that people procreate does just come down to, I want. Next, maybe, is in someone's best interest to be born? Are these ghost fetuses in the room with us now? Which this one's funny because so many people talk as if there are ghost fetuses out there, that they're helping by bringing into existence. But there are none. There are not ghost fetuses. I think as Ricky Gervais said, scratching at the door of a cabinet, trying to get into existence. No one exists to want to be born. Once you create them, then they have all these needs and desires and want a good life. You can't appeal to a good life to create someone because they don't exist for that good life, good in our terms, not on their terms. They don't exist to have any wants or desires that we can measure this to be good against. And yet people talk about unborn people as if they do actually exist and we would benefit them by creating them. Next, me. Son, I put something breathtakingly unpleasant inside one of these drawers. And which one? That's the point of the exercise. You don't know. You just have to choose one to open. What's in the other drawer? It may be a great reward, or it may simply be empty. Indeed, it may be something even worse than unpleasant. Make your choice now. I don't like this game. This game is a precise replication of existence. To reject it is to reject your very right to draw breath. Well, can I skip the drawers and just flush my head down the toilet? That is in the spirit of the game, yes. So this obviously points out the fucked up choice that we make on someone else's behalf when creating them. Obviously in this meme, it's a parent making a child choose themselves, which obviously in reality doesn't happen because the child doesn't exist, but we create them and therefore choose to run the risk on their behalf of extraordinary bad things happening in their lives. If we think about the drawer as an analogy, so when we create create someone, there are all sorts of routes that their life could go down out of their own choices or the choices of others or just natural things that happen in the world. Their life is going to end up somewhere. And so you can imagine these as different drawers that you can open, each one being a different life that this person will lead. Some of them will be extraordinarily bad, some will be good, some will be mediocre, probably many would be mediocre. And what we do is open one of these drawers, often basically at random, and go, well, that's your life, or that's going to be your life. It's a messed up game, we should stop playing it. Next me, humanity looks away from children in poverty and orphanages and looks towards have more babies. It's very true. There's so many people who already exist, so many things we've got to solve or alleviate in this world already. Why create more people to be burdened by the same issues, but also divert resources away from alleviating the issues we have at the moment? Adopt, don't pop, as they say. Next meme and final meme, were you born without your consent? Well, you may be entitled to financial compensation. So this one's amazing. This is so funny. So this is Saul Goodman from Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, who's known as a sort of bent lawyer. And obviously we're all born without our consent. And so if this was done to an existing person, if something as serious as creating you, with all the implications, was done to someone who already exists, something equivalent in magnitude, was done to them without their consent, they were consulted in no way at all, and it was done to them by a random person, and that random person knew that they would be doing that to someone. Obviously this would be something we'd be able to sue over and get a lawyer involved and get some form of compensation for. Now, I'm not saying that antinatalists should actually practically do this, go out and start suing their parents and trying to get as much money as they can. This is just not going to lead to action. But we should at least recognise this, and then hopefully people who have created someone can move towards taking on more of the responsibility for what they've done than they already do. And I know parents do take on responsibility, obviously, they look after their children, oftentimes, not always, and they provide for their children to an extent. But I think once you realise the magnitude of what you've done to someone by creating them, it then expands the duties you have to that child once they exist, which often go beyond what people generally do at present. So those are all the memes. Let me know what you thought of them. If I missed any good memes, let me know in the comments. Have a Merry Christmas. I will see you next one.
If you have seen my previous videos in this
Yes, because some of them will be miserable, and none of the ones will be happy. But there is a second part of the argument. They are not deprived of the happiness that they will experience if they were never created. Because you can do something for someone who never existed. It's not at all, not at all. Because if you, that's why I gave you the thought experiment. I think that this percentage is very generous. It's 1 to 99. It's very generous in to your goal, to your end. I think we shouldn't create the whole 100, even if there will be only one reasonable person. Because explain to me why the 99? How the 99 will be deprived of anything?
That's reality. That's nature, my friend.
No.
Some people are born geniuses.
Yeah.
People are born.
No, but that's not the point. My question is,
you got the genius people, right?
no.
Yeah,
No.
Right components. Did they make a mistake to appropriate?
No. Again, they didn't make a mistake. They made an unethical decision. It's different.
One justifies not having the 99.
Yes.
That's insane.
All right. Explain to me why.
Because it's ridiculous.
Explain to me how do you harm the 99 if they were never here? If they were never created?
You're talking about the 99, but I'm going to say this. Why are you talking about the 99 as a created?
All right. All right. But if you won't create, I get it. But if you don't create the 100, the 99 will never exist, and the miserable one will not exist. But if you create the whole 100, you are responsible for one miserable person, and you're not taking anything away from the 99. You're not taking anything away from the 99 if they're never existed.
And you're not taking
What is that in mistake? So that's what we're
one either. You're not taking anything away from the one either. Right?
Right. I'm not saving him. I'm not saving him by not saving him. You just contradicted yourself. I'm not saving the one. How can I be denying the 99? None of them will exist.
Good. No, it's ridiculous.
No, but what's ridiculous about it? You just agree with me.
You want the end of humanity, don't you?
No, that's not the goal. All right, bear with me. I'm not dodging it.
No, I'm not going to bear with you because you're not making any sense. You're trying to say that because there's one suffering.
No, it's not one suffering. I gave you a thought experiment to play along for the sake of the argument. Of course, the ratios are much more. The ratio, the percentage of people who are much higher.
Nobody should be born into the ratio. Right? Nobody should be born into the ratio.
Not because of the ratio. No.
Then why?
Then why?
All right, listen to me.
Because of that.
But no, that's please.
I just want to make you don't want anyone to be born because some people
Because some of them, yes.
Some people might suffer.
Because some of them will be miserable, and none of the ones will be happy. But there is a second part of the argument, and none of the ones who will be happy will be deprived of this happiness. That's a very important part of the argument that you don't not willing to listen.
At SNHU, we support you from the beginning.
Admissions called me and said, what are you looking for? I don't have ability to attend school in the morning or in the afternoon. And she said, we have that here for you. And now I'm here. I graduated with my bachelor's. Stay the course, because Southern Hudson University just gave me that spark back to say, like, it is possible. Go to smhu.edu.
A song for Jerry Seinfeld. Right, so welcome to another conversation, and this one's a bit of a barbecue because David's about to get roasted. No, I'm joking. So, for anyone that doesn't know, David, or maybe like David in a minute, you can introduce yourself a bit, but David's a vegan YouTuber, does animal rights work, and we know each other personally, we're friends, and recently we did a hike together, which was, shall we say, shorter than expected, but for reasons that we will not go into. And on that hike, that sounds like that leaves a lot of room for people to make their own conclusions. Yeah, throw back turkey. Yeah, for the injuries, we just leave it at that. Yeah, we don't need to go into details. Someone, not me, got injured, so that's why. Yeah. On the part of the body that we will not name. No. Anyway, so on that hike, obviously, we were talking about loads of different subjects, and obviously antinatalism came up, and David had some, I think, more like practical points rather than about the philosophy. It's more about like how it would practically sort of work out in reality. Would it be, better for it to be widespread or sort of, promoted? And we thought we'd do like a discussion and put it out there. So actually, I'm going to be the one that's going to get roasted. But yeah, do you just want to go into your thing? Do you want to introduce yourself a bit first as well?
Sure, yeah. So, yeah, I'm David Rams. I do have a YouTube channel, David Rams, my name. I also have a second YouTube channel called The Rams Den, which is where I do this kind of stuff, actually, what we're doing here. So, the main channel is veganism focused, second channel is mainly veganism, but also other topics as well. That's what I'm doing, and there's also some other stuff I'm doing, like private projects, animal rights, veganism. This is what I'm into. And I wanted to come on here because, we had those discussions, and I've got some, so where I stand with antinatalism is I have no skin in the game. I'll make that clear. I don't have any kids. I've never spent my life dreaming about having kids. I've also never despised the idea of having kids, although when I was younger, I don't think I would want to do that anytime soon. But it's never been one way or the other for me. So I'm quite malleable on this topic. I'm very open to either side of it, either side of this debate. So yes, to be clear, no skin in the game, and that's kind of where I want to start really before we get into kids. I've also never despised the idea of having kids, although when I was younger, I don't think I would want to do that anytime soon. But it's never been one way or the other for me. So I'm quite malleable on this topic. I'm very open to either side of it, either side of this debate. So yeah, to be clear, no skin in the game, and that's kind of where I want to start really before we get into this, because I feel like there's a bit of a mismatch between you and I on this point, in that I don't have a vasectomy, I don't have kids, and I've never dreamed of having kids. Like, I've got no skin in the game. You do. You've had a vasectomy, and you are very, you're adamant on you're so convinced by your point. So, starting there, really, is there any chance in any world that you would ever change your mind, or are you too fully committed to ever consider ever changing your mind? Because I'm completely I just said I'm malleable. So where do you stand on that?
Well,
So I could give like two answers, right? So the first one is more like about my past, which makes it sound like it was like a weird past. But no, it was like actually a very normal past. So like up until the age of 20, I was the complete opposite of what I am now. I was like I can't remember if I mentioned this when we were hiking, but I was like very much, I was the opposite of you when you were a kid. I centered my life around having kids. Like I really wanted kids. I planned it out. I wanted three. You know, I wanted them to learn a second language because I was embarrassed that I only knew English and I'm still fucking struggling with that. So yeah, I was very much like, I didn't really care if I had like an amazing job. I just really wanted kids. Like I based like a lot of stuff around that.
Right.
And then I changed my mind to antinatalism through, you know, I don't need to go through the whole story, but talking to people about it and stuff like that. And I changed my mind on like an intellectual level, still emotionally wanted kids, and it's taken time for that. Like emotional attachment to the idea of having your own kids to fade away. I would say now it's pretty much faded away. Like I still like the idea of raising someone, but it would be like through adoption if I was going to do that. But if I'm going to be completely honest, if I think about the way my life is going to go, obviously I can't predict it. I probably won't like raise anyone because I just think I could probably do better stuff
Shoot
without
the
raising
fucking
someone.
ball,
So the other thing
bitch.
is with the vasectomy and stuff. So now maybe someone could say, okay, well now you kind of locked yourself in, so maybe you'd be a bit overly defensive or whatever because now you've sort of committed. And I agree, like that is like something that I could be prone to, but I think, and I don't know how to describe it, but I would just probably say that I don't think that influences my opinion because, like, I had my strong views before I got the vasectomy. That was why I got the vasectomy. So it wasn't like I got it and then they came around as a sort of defense mechanism. But also, I have like sort of changed my mind on things a bit since having the vasectomy. Not on, I still am just as committed an antinatalist, but I now less sort of, I care more about doing good in other places now.
Right.
So my conversation with John, if you didn't, I won't be butthurt.
No.
No, so I had like a conversation with John on one of my other videos where he was saying, like, he's actually
right now. Sorry.
No, it's not Johnny. It's not Johnny. No, different John. I don't think you'll know this guy. He's vegan, but I don't know if you'd cross paths. And he is antinatalist as well, but he thinks that actually trying to stop people from having kids or convince them not to have kids is not where we should be putting our effort. We should be putting it in things like promoting like the abolition of stuff like factory farms, animal use in general,
Right.
Also helping wild animals, because he thinks those are more pressing issues, which I actually agree with him on. Yeah, so I don't know if that's sort of more waffle than.
Yeah, I didn't really answer the question. To be honest, it was good information, but it didn't. I don't know how it.
Yeah, I think it answered the question because I was saying
It's a yes or no question now. Would you? Like, are you willing to change your mind if
yeah.
Oh, that's it. That's that. Yeah,
I think I already have, yeah, that's why I was giving those things as like an example.
I appreciate the info though. It was good. That did help me. Well, it helps me moving forward. But like, yeah, we got the answer as well.
I think you have to smack me down later.
I just want to make sure that, like, because I'm about to explain my points, and I just wanted to make sure that we're actually able to, you know, that it's completely locked in on your side, even though I understand there's going to be some barriers because you literally had a vasectomy. I mean, like that's not overlooked. That you because of how strongly you believe what you believe, you went to a doctor and you said, "Hey, doctor, I don't need this. There's nothing wrong with me, but I want you to make something wrong with me. I want you to stop something in my body from functioning properly because I have an ideology." that's how strongly you believe in what you believe in. So I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure.
Let me ask you a question. If you could do the equivalent for veganism, would you do that?
No, absolutely not. Would I get an operation so that I can digest meat or something? No, I just go with my ideology that like I don't need the operation. I'll just continue the way I continue.
But knowing that in the future you could be, because I think it's slightly different with veganism, is that with antinatalism, with having a kid, like hormones comes into it, and as you get older, those hormones can sort of overcome your better judgment.
I don't know about that. I mean, the hormones are strongest when you're a teenager. I don't think you get to like 35, 36, and you're just like, oh, just want to fuck everyone and have a baby.
No, that does fucking happen. That happens to so many people.
Look, you have the urges, and temptations. I get that, but as a vegan, I understand what those feel like, and I will never give in to them, no matter what. And because I know that I'm convinced of the ethics, and I wouldn't put any animal through that. So as an antinatalist, if you're convinced of the ethics as you are, which we'll get into, then I don't see the need for surgical intervention. But I would say if you did get the surgical intervention, that makes you far, far, far less likely to change your mind if somebody presents an argument that's convincing.
Yeah. But I don't think necessarily so. I can see why it would come off like that, but I don't think that's the case. I would say I'm just as open-minded to change my mind now.
It's useful. That's all I wanted to get to. Just
Okay.
sure.
Well, all right, we sorted that out.
Yeah. So what? All right, let's start here. I've got my kind of my ideas and stuff. So first off, I want to just define a few things. That's the first thing I wanted to get into. Second thing would be, so I don't need you to speak for antinatalism in general because we're talking to you, right? So what exactly is your goal of in your eyes of antinatalism? Like what your work you want to achieve? What exactly do you want to achieve with it?
Okay, so about my specific work, what I want to do as an individual.
No, but like not exactly, like not like your YouTube or whatever, but your views on antinatalism, what goal are you leading to? So for example, me with veganism, when I talk about veganism, my goal is that I want a world where using animals for our selfish bullshit is no longer a thing we want to do. I want people to not want to do it.
When did you even grow up? Never mind, let's take off. Oh my, let me drink. Wait.
Man, this is so boring. I'm jumping on top of my wife.
Oh my goodness. Cabrillo, I'm like getting fighting on right now. You're fucking what? Stop being mad. Bro, how is that another fight? You wait. How's that? Back. Oh, nice. Run the skills, man. He can't grab a rebound. Oh my god.
I'm in Pennsylvania next week. We going to the strip club, my guy. I'm buying you 10 lap dances. Get excited. Colin, did I mention? It's a gay club for my favorite LGBTQ plus positive streamer.
That freaking game is so hard. Game's not like literally like. That is like. Literally. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.
Carlo, aka, when I lose the game is garbage.
Oh, it literally is garbage. Like, no. There's like, no.
Just give you free your account so we can win you $10,000.
Colors. Oh. Yeah, I don't understand. Yes, Howard. Like, like, can't even find a game. Everybody's sweating on it. It's fans sweat off.
You are a sweat too. You just don't like when you lose the better sweats.
Instead of watching me get beat. Get the sweat off the game? Nigga, you're the biggest sweat in the game. You can literally smell the musk off our screen.
I don't literally sweat. Now, like, I mean, everybody's actually acting so. I mean, they days, but it's natural.
Carlo, your mom literally had to barge in your room and ask if you were the reason the house was smelling. She didn't forget.
Hey, does that mean I'm smelling now?
So I'm getting two error codes on NBA 2K. One is 60 CB1C7E. Second one is 497301116. What do those codes mean?
Okay. But no, the game's like that. Terrible.
Shit.